Hello and welcome to my Align and Activate series. Today we are going to focus on posture. This series is really geared towards figuring out what is your posture, what is your core activation look like, how are your glutes firing. We're going to break all that down, and because our body is completely connected, one thing being inadequate can make one other area of your body feel like it needs to pick up the slack and become also inadequate or overdeveloped. So, breaking it down one by one, today we are starting with posture. Posture affects so much of our everyday movement and life, and we are going to work on a few things that just kind of help you figure out how you are standing, where your neutral pelvis is, and maybe a way you can correct some of your posture today. So you are going to need a strap. If you don't have a strap, you could also use like a belt from your robe or for your pants. If you want to sit up on a bolster for our meditation, you can grab that, but that's about all we'll need today. So go ahead and grab your strap, and we're going to begin with placing this around our upper torso. So we're going to focus on your lower rib cage. So right about where your bra line is, right below your bra line. We're going to place this gently around there so that you can feel the tension, but it's not cutting off any air or inability to breathe. Tight enough where you can notice it, but not too tight where it's affecting your breath, okay? So just placing that again on your lower rib cage around your bra line or right below that. And then make sure that it's all the way equally around in the back and the front. So go ahead and get comfortable, seated position. You can close the eyes off if it feels good, or just let the gaze rest down on the floor. And we're just going to notice the breath. Notice what your breath is doing. We're not trying to change or adjust it right now. Just acknowledge your inhales and your exhales. If they're long and drawn out or short and shallow. Maybe you notice the ribs pressing into the strap with the inhale and then moving away from the strap slightly with the exhale. And we're going to deepen our breath just slightly, coming to a count of 4 to 6 as you breathe in, and then a count of 4 to 6 as you breathe out. But I want you to focus just on the chest. So with the inhalation, the ribs should press into the front of the strap. Exhale, ribs contract and move away from the strap. Just focusing on the chest again, the front of your body. Now let's move to the side. So try to expand into each side, into the right and into the left. Feeling the rib cage press out as you breathe in, and then move in as you breathe out. And just notice what it feels like to breathe into your sides, and maybe one side feels a little more forced. You have to press a little harder. And the other side maybe flows a little more freely. Just noting the difference there and what side does what. Now let's move into our backs. Trying to send the breath into your back. Because we don't really tend to take those full breaths in, it might be hard to breathe into your back. So just note that. So breath in. The back ribs expand. Breath out. The ribs move away. Now we're going to breathe 360 into the chest, into the sides, and into the back, all the way around. Big breath in. Let the ribs expand all directions. And then long exhale out, rib cage closes in. Now this is a 360 breath, like I mentioned. And what you're doing is really breathing with your diaphragm. Our breath affects a lot in our body. It affects our core, it affects our pelvic floor, and having good posture can affect our breath. So if we have bad posture, it could be harder for us to breathe. So really tuning into what it feels like to take that 360 breath. And knowing that you can come back to this, return back to it again and again to help improve your breath quality. So let's go ahead and remove the strap. And we are going to come onto our backs and practice a move that is called rib closure. So it helps us identify alignment in the torso, connects the torso to the bottom, brings a little bit more awareness of your posture, and can correct any issues with maybe rib flaring. That's why we're doing rib closure. So go ahead and come on down to your back. Knees are bent, feet are into the mat. And your body should just be connected down. You're not pressing your body down. You're not making sure that the lower back is pressing really hard. Just feel that connection. Just a nice, gentle connection. All our anatomy is going to be different here. Some people might have a big arch in their lower back. Some people might be able to get their back really flat to the mat just by sitting here. So just tune into all those pressure points. And then we're going to take our arms towards the ceiling, just making light fists with the palms, and thumbs are going to be sticking out. So again, let's go ahead and make sure that our back is connected. We're going to take a big breath in. And then as you exhale, we're going to slowly let our arms come up overhead. Now what we're focusing on is keeping the ribs closing in. So if you notice that your lower back is starting to lift, that is your range of motion. I don't want you to go any further than that. We want to keep the lower back connected down. If you can, thumbs will tap all the way on the ground overhead. And then inhale, we're going to slowly bring the arms back up. Exhale, take the arms up overhead. So you might notice that as the arms come up, the core needs to slightly engage to keep the ribs closed here. Otherwise, you're noticing this. So this is when the ribs are flaring open, they're spreading apart. You have the arch in the lower back. So we want to keep the ribs closing in. Core is tight. Inhale, come up. Exhale, bring it overhead. Couple more times, just like that. So something to note here is what this feels like, because you want to be able to do this when you're standing too. So when you are standing up and you need to take your arms up overhead, can you keep your ribs closing in, or do they tend to flare open? Okay, so now we're going to move on to the final position for noticing your posture and correcting your posture, and that is finding your neutral position for your pelvis. So staying on your back here, we're going to tune into the sacrum. That's the flat part of your lower spine. It's where the spine and the pelvis meet, and then you have the tailbone beneath. So as you exhale, I want you to tuck the pelvis so that the weight shifts to the top of the sacrum. You should feel most of the pressure on the top. And then as you inhale, you're going to untuck the pelvis so that you have the arch in the lower back. Should maybe slide your hand underneath there. And the weight's going to be at the bottom of the sacrum near the tailbone. Now, to find your neutral, I want you to adjust your pelvis just slightly so that the weight is directly in the middle of your sacrum. Now, this is your neutral pelvis. Tune into what this feels like. Does your core feel a little bit more tight when it's like this? Maybe that's an indication that you tend to stick your butt back. Does it feel a little bit more looser like this? Maybe it's an indication that you tend to tuck your pelvis and squeeze your glutes, which also contributes to issues in your posture, but we will work on glutes a little bit later. Good, let's do it again. So inhale, you're untucking the pelvis, sticking the butt back. Exhale, tucking the pelvis, shifting the weight to the top of the sacrum. And then find your neutral, just a slight adjustment in the hips. There's your neutral. Now we're going to come to standing and we're going to practice that again so that you can notice that neutral position in your pelvis in a standing position as well. So go ahead and come up. And I want you to think of your perineum, or the center of the base of your pelvis will be like an eyeball. So that eyeball should be directly in the middle of the heels here. Thinking of placing that right in the middle of the feet. And then let's take the hands to the hips. Inhale, we're sticking the butt back. We have the untuck of the pelvis. This causes a lot of issue in our posture. We tend to get really tight in the front here and then really loose in the back along the hamstrings. And then as we tuck our pelvis, which tends to happen after carrying a baby, once we get a little bit older, we lose the activation in our glutes and we press the hips forward, tuck the pelvis, and we're always squeezing the glutes. And a clenched muscle is a weak muscle. It can't contract the way that it needs to. So when we do this, that tends to weaken the glutes, and we get the flatter glutes, or the pancake glutes, also known like that. So now we're going to find that neutral right in the middle. The eye of the base of the pelvis is right between the middle of the feet here. Let's do it again. Inhale, butt sticks back. Exhale, you're tucking the pelvis under, and then we're finding that slight neutral. Now see if you can grow a little taller. Tune into the pressure points of the feet and just notice what this feels like. Does it feel a little more tight in your core? Does it feel a bit loose in the glutes or tight in the glutes? Those indications can let you know how your posture tends to be. But when we're standing, when we're waiting in line, this is what we should be standing like. Base of the pelvis right in the center of the feet. Neutral pelvis, we're not sticking back, we're not pressing forward. We have a nice neutral curve, natural curve in the lower spine. Core should be slightly engaged. What does that feel like? So here are your 3 moves that I want you to practice. Help improve your posture and just be more aware of your posture throughout the day. Notice how you sit when you're sitting in the car, when you're watching TV. Are you rounding your back and sitting on your tailbone? That is going to cause issues in your posture and your pelvic floor and your core and your glutes. So sit on those sit bones, those 2 bony parts of your bottom. How are you standing when you're standing in a line? What does that look like? So think of this throughout the day and notice how can you correct it. I hope this helped you. Thank you so much for joining me today in posture, and I hope you can continue to join these classes. I do go over this more in depth in my Power Pelvic Floor course, which is available on my website, amybizalwellness.com. But feel free to comment, feel free to message me if you have any questions.